Sir, your screen is visible. You can minimize and you can start.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay. Swanirbar sir, hope my slides is visible to you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So once again, I would like to convey my thanks to Swanirbar sir and other organizing members, especially Jan sir, for giving me this opportunity to deliver a talk on Introduction to Digital Literacy for New Education Policy 2020. So I welcome all my dear participants, my beloved friends, those who are the teachers, to this 5 days online program on embedding computational thinking to make educational system relevant for the youth. I am Madhusudan Mishra, a assistant professor in the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, NARIST, Arunachal Pradesh. This is the outline of my presentation, which is mainly focused on the digital literacy, new education policy, and various aspects of digital literacy, which has been one of the recommendation for new educational policy 2020. So let me just give the context of this digital literacy for the new education policy NEP 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has created unforeseen challenges in Indian educational landscape. Schools and colleges have switched to remote learning and started online classes and exams. The pattern of education has changed overnight, and the digital learning has emerged as the primary alternative of education. And this sudden switch and over dependence of technology has come with its fair share of constraints. Amidst Amidst this transition, for the first time in almost 34 years, the erstwhile Ministry of Human Resources and Development, now known as the Ministry of Education, launched the new education policy on 29 July 2020. Expectedly, the policy proposes several measures for promoting digital learning, online learning, and enhancing infrastructure requirements. However, However, given the socio-economic and regional diversity of our country, there exist multiple roadblocks, multiple challenges to accessibility and the ability of widespread adoption of online teaching and learning in the present scenario. So this makes the background that why there is a recommendation of this digital literacy, this online teaching for the new education policy by the government of India. So before we see the various aspects of this recommendation or this introduction of digital literacy for our new education policy 2020, it's always better to have the basic knowledge or the good knowledge of the terms like digital literacy, then what exactly the new education policy aims for, and then we will see what are the various aspects of recommending this digital literacy for the new education policy 2020. So let me make familiar about the digital literacy. So when we say digital literacy, so we are very, very familiar with the word literacy. So while the word literacy alone generally refers to reading and writing skills, when you take on the when we say literacy alone, it refers to just reading and writing skills of a person. When we take on the word digital before it, I mean digital literacy, the term encompasses much, much more. It becomes a very huge term. It becomes a very big term. And the term digital literacy is so broad that some experts even stay away from it, preferring to speak more specifically about particular skills at the intersection of technology and literacy. The American Library Association's Digital Literacy Task Force offers this definition as: digital literacy is the ability to use information and communication technologies to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information requiring both cognitive and technical skills. So this is the definition referred by the American Library Association's digital literacy task, that basically it needs the both cognitive as well as technical skills. There are lots of definition, and I have compiled few definition. Similarly, the United States National Broadband Plan generally refers to digital literacy as a variety of skills associated with using ICT, information and communication technologies, to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information. I'm repeating once again that this digital literacy, it's a very broad word, and one definition is that a variety of skills associated with using information and communication technologies to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information is called as digital literacy. More simply, Hiller Spires, who is a professor of literacy and technology at North Carolina State University, views digital literacy as having three buckets. That it has, this digital literacy has mainly three basic components in it. The first is finding and consuming digital data or the digital content. Second component of digital literacy is creating digital content. And third bucket or the third component of digital literacy is communicating or sharing it. So there are three buckets of a digital literacy, and these are finding and consuming digital content. So the first is finding and consuming digital content, creating digital content, and then communicating or sharing it with the different people. So let us see what this first component, the first bucket of digital literacy, that is finding and consuming, refers. So in some formats, consuming digital contents, I'm stressing on the word consuming digital. Consuming means it, like we want to read it, we want to assimilate that. That's why the word consuming. So in some formats, consuming digital contents look pretty much the same as reading some printouts. Whereas reading a novel or a book on a basic e-reader, that is a digital tool, basic e-reader, electronic reader, requires knowing how to turn the device on and flip pages back and forth. But other than that, it isn't so different from reading a book, but it requires some additional skills. Say, when we talk of online reading, in which a digital text is read through the internet, require a host of additional skills. For instance, a New York Times piece viewed on the web may contain hyperlinks, videos, audio clips, images, interactive graphics, share buttons, or a comment section. Features that force the reader to stop and make decisions rather than simply reading from the top to bottom. So this digital literacy, where the finding and consuming is the first bucket or it's the key component, it requires a host of additional skills, unlike just reading a simple conventional printout paper. The reader determines, among other things, to click on the videos or hyperlinks, how long to stray from the initial text, and whether and how to pass the information along to the others. A part of digital literacy is learning to search for content in an online space. So a part of digital literacy is to search some content. Suppose I would like to search about the new education policy, so I should put some keyword to the search engines. So so a part of digital literacy is learning to search for content in the online space. Students have to query a search engine using keywords and navigate those results, including accessing and reliability of particular authors and websites. Then let us move to the second key component of digital literacy, that is the creating content. So digital literacy also refers to content creation. So the first step was to consume and read that. But now, after that, the second step is that we have to create some content online. And digital literacy, that's why it also includes content creation. That includes writing in digital formats such as email, blogs, and tweets, as well as creating other forms of media such as videos and podcasts. Podcasts, basically it refers to digital audio file which can be uploaded or which can be downloaded. Rennie Hobbs, a professor of communication studies at University of Rhode Island, talks about digital authorship as a form of social power. So if we become the digital, if we have the digital authorship, say LinkedIn or Facebook, or there are many platforms are there, so we can put some information there, and this can be shared and it can pass to million people. So it becomes a very powerful powerful way to communicate. That's why we say that digital authorship is a form of social power. Okay, so sometime, like if somebody has a problem in the railway ticket or any problem, they directly tweet to the minister also sometime, and their problem gets solved very soon. So here it is an example that digital authorship is a form of social power. Creating digital content is a creative and collaborative process that involves experimentation and risk taking also. She said in one of the conferences, there's more risk taking than in print writing, because that print writing we do not share much, but digital writing is so often meant to be shared among the millions of people. Now, moving to the third important content of digital literacy, that is sharing and communicating. While traditional writing can be a personal endeavor, digital writing is generally intended to be communicated with others, and digital writing tools are designed to make that easy to do. It has various facilities. As North Carolina State Spires and her co-author, Melissa Bartlett, in 2012, she wrote in white paper about digital literacy and learning. So Web 2.0 tools are social, participatory, collaborative, easy to use, and are facilitative in creating online communities. So we have the option to share and communicate among the different peoples. So this is one of the important facility given by the digital literacy. It also makes digital writing a potentially dangerous tool. Decisions about when and what to share online can have repercussions for student safety, privacy, and reputation. For that reason, learning about appropriate internet behavior is also a part of digital literacy, and many say. So we need to help our kids to see that that they can use the digital tools to create the things, to share the things, and put things out into the world, but there's responsibility that comes with that. They should not share some videos which are very communal, or which can create the sentiments, which can hurt the sentiments of the people. So though this digital literacy provides the option to create, to share, and to communicate, but at the same time one should know the very appropriate internet behavior also. Well, this term digital literacy, as we are discussing, it's really very evolving. It has very evolving definition, and has the evolving technology also. So because of the term digital literacy is so wide ranging, it can cause confusion. What exactly is someone talking about when he or she refers to digital literacy? So a person having a digital literacy as a qualification, he must be able to consume the data from the net. He must be able to create the data. Content creation can be done by him. He can understand the ethical values, and he can be able to share that. But still, there is no, as it is a very, very wide ranging definition. So this digital literacy is really so wide ranging. So there are lots of questions that comes, like what exactly is someone talking about when he or she refers to digital literacy? Is it the consumption, creation, or communication of digital material only? Or is that person discussing a particular digital tool? Do technology skills like computer coding falls under digital literacy umbrella as well, or he should be called as a only programmer? So some experts, that's why some experts prefer the term digital literacies. In place of digital literacy, some experts prefer to use the term digital literacies to convey the many facets of what reading and writing in the modern era entails. So that's why, as it spans various various keys, or various components, that's why a model has been developed from the Future Lab. Okay, I have given the references here. So the model for digital literacy illustrates the necessity of broadening our scope and approaching digital media from a number of different perspectives and with different goals in mind. So this digital literacy has basically 8 skills. Okay, so these 8 skills includes in a digital literacy, like it must have a creativity. This digital literacy also encompasses critical thinking and evaluation, cultural and social understanding. We cannot create any data that becomes not accepted culturally or socially. Then it allows collaboration, and it has the ability, by the help of digital literacy, we can find and select information, we can communicate the information effectively, and we can care the safety measures for the user and for other peoples. And it needs various functional skills of using tools and searching the websites. So now we are familiar with the. I request participant to please switch off your microphone. So now let us move to the word called National Education Policy. So National Education Policy is aimed at promoting education among the people of India and provides framework of teaching and learning across schools in India. First introduced in 1968, the policy has undergone amendments in 1986 and 1992 before the latest changes that happened in 2020, almost after 34 years. So this 2020 National Education Policy brings the highest degree of modification, notably in terms of medium of instruction and segregation in level of schooling. At the university level, revamping of curriculum, pedagogy, the teaching style, assessment, and student support are in order, while also opening the country up for foreign universities, faculty, and students. So when we see the vision of this National Education Policy 2020, so it has certain visions. So based on this vision, this National Education Policy 2020 has been drafted. So the vision is an education system that contributes to an equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing high quality education to all, develops a deep sense of respect towards the fundamental rights, duties, and constitutional values, bonding with one's country and a conscious awareness of one's role and responsibility in changing world. Instills skills, values, and disposition that support responsible commitment to human rights, sustainable development, and living and global well-being, thereby reflecting a true global citizen. So these are the vision of National Education Policy 2020. Now let us see what are the main key points of the National Education Policy 2020. So this National Education Policy, NEP, aims to transform India into a vibrant knowledge society and global knowledge superpower by making both school and college education more holistic, flexible, multidisciplinary, suited to 21st century needs, and aimed at bringing out the unique capabilities of each student. So it aims, this is the aim of National Education Policy. And the Union Cabinet, chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi, approved the National Education Policy 2020 on July 29, 2020. This policy replaced the almost 34-year-old National Policy on Education, which was drafted in 1986. So as we saw that there were lots of educational policies came, but after that 1986, after 34 years, almost after 3 decades, this new education policy 2020 was approved, and it has the most variability. It has lots of modifications, and mainly this NEP 2020, it is built on the fundamental pillars of access by collecting lots of feedback from different sections of the people, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. This policy is aligned to the 2030 agenda for sustainable development, because as we know that in India we have a growing population, and all population are very young, with the median age of 28 years. So there is a huge burden and there is a unemployability. So this new education policy 2020, it aims to create some more employability among the youths. That's why this policy is aligned to the 2030 agenda for sustainable development, by creating various jobs, by creating entrepreneurship among the youths. So these I have collected from the report given by the Ministry of Human Resource and Development. Now it is known as Department of Education, Ministry of Education. So the key principles of this new education policy are mentioned here. So mainly this is designed, this is drafted, this new education policy has been drafted so that has the respect for diversity and local content in all the curriculum, in the teaching style and the policy. It also takes care of equity and inclusion. It allows community participation. It recommends the use of technology in teaching and learning, removing language barriers for Divyang students and in educational planning and management. It emphasizes the conceptual understanding rather than rote learning and learning for just for exams. And it tries to identify the unique capabilities by recognizing, identifying them in each of the student. It encourages logical decision making and innovation, thereby developing the critical thinking and creativity in the students. And it also have the continuous review process based on sustained research and regular assessment by educational experts. So these are the key principles of new education policy. And one of the important aim, or rather the feature of the new education policy 2020 is to provide universal access to early childhood care and education. That is also known as ECCE. So universal access to early childhood care and education. So universal access, say for children of 3 to 6 years, access to free, safe, high quality early childhood care and education. And for that, they have planned to build Anganwaris, preschool, and Balvatika. Similarly, like there will be a foundation learning curriculum for the age group of 3 to 8 divided into two parts. From age 3 to 6 in early child care and education, where it will be like preschool, just playing with the games. And then from age 6 to 8, that is from in the class 1 and 2 and in the primary school. So in those up to 8 years, students will be given the foundation learning curriculum. Similarly, like we have preparatory classes also. Like prior to the age of 5, every child will be moved to a Balvatika or preparatory class where there will be just they will be they will be made to learn to how to interact among their friends, how to play games, so that they will be prepared to move to the class 1. And then it has a multifaceted uh, learning based system. It is a very flexible, multi-level, play based, activity based, and inquiry based learning. Then ensuring universal access to education at all the levels. So this is also the key highlights of our new education policy. So like multiple pathways to learning involving both formal and non-formal education modes. And like it is aimed to build some schools promoting both government and non-governmental philanthropic organization to build schools. Then it is based on the learning outcomes. Focus will be on achieving the designed learning outcomes at all the levels, whether it's the Balvatika or whether it's say for foundation course or whether it's for higher levels. So for all the levels of education, it must be teaching learning should be based on the learning outcomes. Then we know that in India, many students, majority portion of the students are dropout. So one of the main aim of this new education policy is to bring back the dropouts. It works to bring dropout children back to the school so that they can be made literate. And alternative centers will be opened, various educational centers where education can be imparted. And then there will be pure tutoring suitable for all categories, business and personal presentations. Then like this new education policy 2020, so when it was drafted, it was drafted in such a way that at the end it should give certain output. So let us see what are the expected outputs of a new education policy 2020. So the first is like universalization of access from ECCE to secondary, means like everyone can get the accessibility to the education. It will be universalized. So a high quality at free of cost and learning based education, whatever we discussed previously, and it ensures equity and inclusion. There should be equality, bringing back 2 crores out of school dropouts children. It aims to attain sustainable development goals, SDG, sustainable development goals of retaining all children in school until completion of secondary education. It aims to improve the quality and achievement of learning outcomes, foundation literacy and numeracy. Focused on 21st century schools in teaching, learning, and assessment. Resource sharing, like school complexes, effective governance, separation of power and common norms, overcoming the language barrier in learning. Many of the advanced countries, they follow their own language. Say, if we talk of Japan or China, they are very well developed, and Russia. So they follow their own languages. But in India, we have language barrier. Because of language, many students are unable to get the proper education. So that's why it will be in the multi-language career, multi-language options will be there. Mainly the local languages or few languages besides Hindi and English will be also incorporated to teach to in the learning and teaching processes. So overcoming the language barrier in learning. Then common standards for public and private schools education will be made. So these are the various expected outcomes, and these all outcomes, it is just meant to improve the quality of education, to strengthen our education system in order to get the sustainable development, in order to get the job, in order to reduce the burden of unemployability of this growing population. And now this is very interesting slide here. So if we see this one, left one, so it is the existing academic structure here. So basically this NEP 2020, it has transformed the curriculum as well as the pedagogical structure also. So in existing academic structure, we all know that from 6, first there will be say preschool, like LKG, UKG, and after that kids go to class 1 at the age of 6, and it's a 10-year system. It's a 10-year system. So in the 10 years they will study from 1 to 10. After matriculation, based on their choice and the marks, they will go for +2. So that will be between the age of 16 to 18. They will be studying arts or commerce or science, that is in class 11 and 12. So this is the existing academic structure which we all have did in our school days, and we are very familiar with it. But this NEP 2020, it has given the new academic structure with certain logic. So the first one is so it is divided mainly into the 4 steps. So first is foundation course. After that there will be a preparatory schooling, and then the middle schooling, and after that secondary. So new pedagogical and curricular structure of school education is, if I see this blue one, it's a 3 plus 2, so it's 5. So 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 years. So new pedagogical and curricular structure of school education is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. First 5 year is for foundation course, where student will be made to study in Anganwadi or preschool or Bal Batika when they are in between the age of 3 to 6, and after that they will move to class 1 and 2 for 2 more years. So 5 years will be for the foundation course, and after that 3 years will be there for the preparatory moves. So that will be from classes 3 to 5, and after that once they cross class 5, they will be moved to middle class, which refers to class 6 to 8, and then their age will be in between 11 to 14. And in the secondary it will be of 4 years. Okay, so that will be from class 9 to 12. So here, like, as we can see the color, we can relate it through color also. Like first the blue is here. So in the blue it is written fundamental stage, that is for 5 years. 5 years means this 3 plus 2. So it's a multi-level play activity based learning. And then we have the 3 years of preparatory stage where students are encouraged to play, to discover, and activity based and interactive classroom learning is made for them. In the middle stage, which is of 3 years, experimental learning in sciences and mathematics, arts, social sciences, and humanities are done. And then in the secondary stage, which is a multidisciplinary study, and mainly it is greatly focused on critical thinking, flexibility, and student choices of subject. So this is the transformation made in the new academic structure according to the new education policy 2020. And this the main objective of new education policy is that, like, there should be early childhood education, learning in the formative years. They want that student learn lots of things. They should develop lots of logical thinking and problem solving, and play based activities, ethics, self identity, relationship with the nature, etiquettes, behavior, and emotional development at very early age. When they reach till 3, they should know these things. So that's why it is said that attainment of fundamental literacy and numeracy by grade 3 in the mission mode. So it's a mission mode, means they want to give the early education. They want that when student reaches up to class 3, they should be knowing about all these things. They must develop fundamental skills. Early learning should be focused on reading and writing and mathematics. So a student of class 3 must be able to learn, must be able to know about reading, writing, and basic mathematics. And then this new education policy has also been instrumental in reducing the curriculum. Like here it's the reduction in curriculum. So this slide mainly it presents that curriculum in all subjects to be reduced to its core essential, and the focus will be more on critical thinking, inquiry, discovery, discussion, and analysis based teaching and learning method for holistic education. Then it also encourages interactive classes, interactive teaching with the reduced dependency on textbook learning. Questions from students will be promoted. And then it says that more encouragement should be given on experimental based learning, where there will be fun, creativeness, collaborativeness, and explanatory activities in classroom for experimental learning and deeper student learning. So mainly curriculum and pedagogy. Pedagogy means the way of teaching, the style of teaching, to be transformed by 2022, because as it was introduced in, it was approved, this new education policy was introduced in 2020. So it has given 2 years of time, so that by 2022, this curriculum and pedagogy to be transformed by 2022 to promote skill-based and minimize rod-based learning. Revision of NCF for school education and NCF for teacher education 2009 by 2021. Then this new education policy, it also focuses on learning based outcomes, competencies, and subject integration. So modules are modules on preparing and implementation, pedagogical plans based on competency and outcome-based education for school leaders. Then there will be provision to integrate the subjects through arts integrated, sports integrated, ICT, information and communication tools integrated, and storytelling based teaching style among others as a standard pedagogy. Development of scientific temper and inculcation of knowledge and practice of human and constitutional values such as patriotism, sacrifice, non-violence, truth, honesty, peace, etc. So these qualities should be inculcated among our students. Promotion of multilingual teaching, promoting states to enter into bilateral agreements with nearby states to hire language teachers. And the most important, where our talk is focused, that this new education policy, each new education policy, it emphasizes on digital literacy, and mainly we will be discussing on this topic, that is on digital literacy. So this new education policy, it has recommended the introduction of digital literacy. It put much focus, it emphasizes on digital literacy. Emphasis on digital literacy, coding and computational thinking, ethical and moral reasoning should be given to the students. And there should not be hard separation between curricular, co-curricular and extracurricular activities. There should not be much hard barrier or hard marking system differences in academic and vocational, or science and humanities, or sports and art academics. So what we feel from this discussion, that this new education policy is drafted or has been approved to transform our education system in such a way that our education system becomes strengthened in order to get the sustainable development among our youths. Then it also focuses on achieving mental and physical health and well-being. And this is mandatory for students to acquire skills in health, nutrition, physical education, fitness, wellness, and sports. So annual health checkup for all the students must be done in the school. And it also focuses to reduce the weight of school bags. And mandatory skills of health and wellness should be imbibed by all students. Focus should also be given, care should also be given to the children with disability, or which have some special ability. Inclusion and caring culture at school. The role and expectation of the principal and teachers will explicitly include developing a caring and inclusive culture at school, and hiring counselors in school complexes. State governments will be encouraged to hire adequate number of counselor and teachers to be shared across school complexes in benefit of students. And this new education policy, as we discussed, that it is mainly, it also recommends digital teaching. Okay, so and it gives the innovative way of teaching, transforming teaching and learning process in compared to the conventional one. So it is based on experimental learning. It has a provision to integrate pedagogy, like one subject of arts should be combined with the sports. And whenever somebody is studying arts, it must uses ICT, that is online integrated technologies, pedagogy. And then equal weightage should be given to the curricular, co-curricular, or extracurricular areas. Freedom of choosing a variety of subject combination to be provided. It's not that in earlier case, like in the existing system, like if somebody is in the science stream, he cannot take geography. If a student of class 12, he cannot take history. But nowadays, in this NEP, there is a provision, there is a freedom of choosing a variety of subject combination to be provided. For example, if a science student, if he is interested in music, he want to develop his career in music, he can also choose a subject from music, though he's a science student. So there is a freedom of selecting a variety of subjects, combinations can be done. Then sometime
Okay.
bagless days will be scheduled in academic calendar. Use and
Sir,
integration of
um,
technologies will be
excuse me
required.
sir.
Yes,
Sir, I have a
yes,
question.
please. Yes,
सर
please.
ऐसा अभी जो न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी जो आया है इसके अंदर मेरा एक क्वेश्चन
Yes.
है सर। मुझे जरा सा इसमें
Mm-hmm.
कंफ्यूजन है कि एक स्टूडेंट जो साइंस का स्टूडेंट है अभी अगर वो मैथ्स लेता है और बायो लेता है फॉर प्रिपेयरिंग
Okay.
नीट एग्जाम, तो उसके लिए केमिस्ट्री और फिजिक्स दो कंपल्सरी
Mm.
सब्जेक्ट है सर पढ़ने के लिए। तो एजुकेशन पॉलिसी के अंदर ऐसा है कि वो इनमें चॉइस रख सकता है, जैसा वो मैथ्स बायो इनके अंदर जैसा चॉइस रखता है, तो क्या इन सब्जेक्ट को भी लेके चॉइस रख सकता है कि उसको केमिस्ट्री अगर इंटरेस्टेड नहीं है तो केमिस्ट्री नहीं।
हाँ, वो न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी बिल्कुल फ्रीडम देता है. It
देगा।
provides freedom to choose. Yes. Yeah, even he can take subject from arts also, though he's in the science, because that is mainly the system is like this, that after class 8, earlier what happens, after 10 there is a 2 years only, but here, like at the end after 8 we have 4 years there. Okay, so if we see that that structure, okay, if we see this structure,
हाँ जी।
just a minute, I will show you this one. So like here, like earlier what happened, when if we consider this existing academic structure, so here a science student, he cannot take say if he's a science student, he can take only say chemistry, physics, biology, maths, and say English, or say computer, or something, one subject. But here in the new academic structure, like in the secondary stage, okay, in the secondary stage, you see this is yellow color, and here it is secondary stage, it is of 4
जी।
years. So it's a multidisciplinary study, it's a multidisciplinary study, greater critical thinking, flexibility, and student choices of subjects, so he can choose. And don't worry that then how he will clear, if a person chooses music, then how he will be able to clear medical, because in medical there will be no need of music. Or say if he is taking history, then how he will do well in the engineering. But according to that, there will be a provision, there will be a provision. So some subjects will be mandatory, but at the same time a combination can be possible from the different areas also. Okay, is it
ओके
now
सर,
okay?
थैंक यू।
Okay, thank you.
ओके सर, ओके, थैंक यू वेरी मच।
You're welcome to ask the questions. And then like it gives the textbook with local content and flavor. So all textbook to contain only essential core material while capturing any desired new nuisances and supplemental material as per local context and needs. So like it gives a provision in the textbook to incorporate some local content and flavor based on that requirement. Affordable and high quality and energized textbook to be provided along with free digital version on Diksha platform to the students. States to prepare their own curricula and textbooks based on NCERT curriculum and textbook incorporating state flavor and materials as required for that particular place. And concentrated efforts through suitable changes in curriculum and pedagogy to significantly reduce the weight of school bags and textbooks. Okay, so these all are the key highlights of new education policy 2020. And now this is the most important and it is more relevant in our context, because we are mainly discussing introduction of digital literacy in new education policy. That what was the important, or why this digital literacy has been recommended by new education policy. So India's future and India's leadership role in upcoming field is possible only when we put emphasis on computational thinking, increased emphasis on mathematics and computational thinking throughout the school years. Computational thinking activities involving coding will be introduced in the middle stage, means from class 6 onwards. Then mathematical thinking and problem solving, inculcate mathematical thinking and problem solving through a variety of innovative methods, including the regular use of puzzles and games, then including contemporary subjects in school, teaching of contemporary subjects at middle and secondary stages like artificial intelligence, design thinking, holistic health, organic living, environmental education, global citizenship education, and these things. So these all will be introduced in the school syllabus only. So I remember that in my BTech or in my MTech, I come across the word artificial intelligence. But nowadays, like everywhere in our day-to-day life, we have these algorithms, artificial intelligence. In the foreign countries, we have the trains, driverless trains, driverless cars. So these days, most of the things are becoming artificial intelligence based. That's why this mathematical thinking, computational thinking, problem solving abilities, and introducing these contemporary subjects, relevant subjects like artificial intelligence, design thinking, holistic health, these all are introduced in the school days, so that they will be familiar with this word, and they can cope up, they can keep in the race, they can keep the pace in this changing world. That's why these are very important contemporary subject that should be known. That's why nowadays coding and all these things has been introduced, because these are very, very important as rapidly the things has been moving. In pandemic, we saw how the education system has changed overnight. This digital online media has become the primary mode of education. All schools are and colleges are closed, but still online education is continuing. That's why including contemporary subjects in school is very, very essential, and it has been recommended by new education policy. Then one of the key feature or one of the aim of this new education policy is to preserve our knowledge, the vast and the ancient knowledge of our country. So we have to preserve that. Like so we have to. This new education policy recommends to preserve the knowledge of our ancient India, which is very, very precious. So video documentaries on inspirational luminaries of India in science and beyond will be incorporated in accurate and scientific manner wherever relevant. Students will be given a logical framework for making ethical decisions at young age. Okay, our Indian knowledge systems, including tribal knowledge and indigenous and traditional ways of learning, will be covered. Okay, so mainly this is to preserve our knowledge. Okay, basic training in health, mental, and good nutrition should also be provided. So these all are just a step towards to make the education system better. And then this is the examination pattern from class 1 to 8. So based on like the time given to me, let me see what is the time now. Let me see. Okay, it's 11:14. So still I have 14 to 15 minutes left. So I will just quickly go through this. So these are the examination patterns. So examination pattern has also been changed. So key stage assessment will be done in classes 3, 5, and 8 to track the achievement, and testing to focus on achievement of essential learning outcomes. And moving away from rote learning, assessment of core concepts and knowledge higher order school skills and its application in real life situation will be done, moving away from the rote learning. And then results of school examinations will be used only for developmental purpose and for continuous monitoring and improvement of schooling system. Similarly, for reforming examination in grade 9 to 12, including board exams. So board exams will be made easier as they will test primarily core capacities or competencies. Viable models to be explored like annual, semester, or modular 2 parts exam, objective type as well as descriptive type. Guidelines will be prepared by NCERT and also the state SCERTs, Board of Assessments, and PARAK. Okay, beginning with mathematics, all subject could be offered at 2 levels. So now transforming the culture of the assessment, like whatever we earlier we used to do the assessment of a student, now there is a change in the assessment, in the evaluation process of the student's performance. So there will be a continuous tracking of learning outcomes of each child. Board exams to be more flexible with assessment of essential skills, assessment to focus on core concepts, higher order and fundamental skills, AI-based software, artificial intelligence-based software to help track the progress of students to enable them to make potential career choices. And then there will be a national assessment center to maintain the uniformity. There will be self-assessment and peer assessment. Okay, so there is a change, and then there will be a holistic progress card. Okay, and then there should be 360 degree feedback. There should be a multi-dimensional report. Progress card of the student will include self-assessment, peer assessment, assessment from his or her friends, and then teacher assessments. Cards to reflect the progress and uniqueness of learner in the cognitive, affective, socio-emotional, and psychomotor domains. AI-based software to develop to help track growth through school years to help students to make optimal career choices. It will help to choose the career after passing class 8. Then it will focus on multilingualism and power of language learning. So medium of instruction up till grade 5 and preferably till 8 and beyond will be home language or the mother tongue or local language. Then there should be building of construction of school complexes and clusters like Bal Bhavan, which will be meant for strengthening and setting up Bal Bhavan for children of all age to participate in art related, career related, and play related activities. Then there will be construction or building of Samajik Chetna Kendras, which can be utilized capacity of schools to be used as Samajik Chetna Kendra to promote social and intellectual and voluntarily activities among the students. Then standard setting and accreditation. Okay, so and this new education policy, it also tells about the requirement of teachers' education, that what should be the minimum education of a teacher. So generally, if minimum degree qualification for teaching, that includes student teaching at school locals by 2030, it should be 4 years integrated BEd. So if somebody has 2-year BEd, then he can teach the applicants with an existing bachelor's degree in one specialized subject. So likewise, now the requirement of teacher will also, it will be transformed, it will be different as compared to the existing one. So accordingly, our youth has to prepare accordingly in order to get the teacher's job also. So this is about, and then this focuses on NP, National Education Policy 2020. It also focuses on improving teachers' education. So they will give proper training, and the teachers will also be allowed, they will also be tested so that the education system increases. Then teachers recruitment and deployment. Okay, so teachers will be provided certificates. There will be transparent transfer system, so that it is not that one teacher can be there for many years at one place, and other will be uh, so basically, in order to transparent transfer system, it will be based on computerized system. So empowering teachers will be uh, given given lots of facilities in order to empower them, like academic leadership positions to be made available for the teachers. They should be given training for their career growth. Then they must be trained on technology based training. Okay, and it also focuses on socio-economic disadvantaged groups, so that there should not be any gender identities, there should not be socio-cultural identities. So everything should be benefited with the help of this various recommendations of new education policy. It ensures equity. There should be fee waiver those who are weak, or those who are very weak means those who are poor economically. Okay, and there will be fee waivers for those who are very meritorious students. Then there is an integration of vocational education at all the levels, because this vocational education can only help uh, our students to get the job. Okay, so like all the students of grade 6 to 8 will intern with the local vocational experts such as carpenters, gardeners, porters, artists, and so on, to develop a vocational craft. For that, like Lok Vidya skill frameworks will be developed. Then setting of Parak. Parak means it's a national center for performance assessment, review and analysis of knowledge for holistic development. Then there will be inclusion of adult education and lifelong learning. And this adult education curriculum mainly includes 5 types of program: fundamental literacy and numeracy, critical life skills, vocational skills development, basic education, and continuing education. And then this is the most important, and it is relevant to our talk here, our discussion here, that introduction to digital literacy in new education policy. So here we have online and digital education. It enhances educational access to disadvantaged group, including Divyang students. It gives the provision of blended learning, emphasis on effective models of blended learning, mixed learning, content creation, then expansion of existing e-learning platforms like Diksha, Swayam, NPTEL, and other things. Digital platforms and ongoing ICT-based educational initiative to be optimized and expanded. Like we have a Swayam, one nation, one digital form. Okay, so, and the main thing is that how to bring this computational thinking, this programming, this digital literacy to the schools. And for that, this new education policy 2020 recommends that mathematical and computational thinking will be given increased emphasis through a variety of innovative methods, including a regular use of puzzles, games that make mathematical thinking more enjoyable and engaging. And in that context, CS Pathshala, which is an association for computer machinery India, initiative to bring a modern computing curriculum to the Indian schools. So it prepares our students to participate creatively in the digital age. CS Pathshala proposes an activity-based unplugged computational thinking curriculum for primary and secondary schools. And then let us see, when the digital literacy has been emphasized in this new education policy 2020. So at the same time, though it has given a wide way, and nowadays in this COVID pandemic, it has been the primarily source of education system, because all the colleges and schools are closed down because of this COVID-19. But this new education policy, though it proposes several measures for promoting digital learning and enhancing infrastructure requirements, however, given the socio-economic and regional diversity of India, there exist multiple roadblocks and challenges to accessibility and the ability of a widespread adaptation of online teaching and learning. So two major challenges or roadblocks of introducing this digital literacy in our new education policy is digital divide and literacy gap. So these are the two roadblocks. Let us see what the digital divide means. So digital divide means digital deprivation has been an ongoing issue in India even before the challenges brought on by COVID-19 pandemic. The key problem surrounding remote learning and online classes in country is the issue of equitable access, along with adequate penetration of internet and technology services. Accessibility in this context also include access to electronic devices such as computer and smartphones. A report by Nielsen in 2019 concluded that 70% of rural population doesn't have an active internet facility, with states like West Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand, and Odisha having the lowest internet penetration. So in this cases where there is no internet facilities or not a good internet facility, or there is not good electronic devices like smartphone, then it becomes a challenge for introducing this digital literacy in the new education policy. Especially in our northeastern states, the findings of the report indicate that users are less affluent and predominantly male, because in the remote villages still there is no reach of internet facilities, and even people are there who are very poor and they are unable to afford electronic devices like computer and smartphones. So remote learning has also been a challenge for students in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The ongoing ban on 4G internet has been particularly challenging for students and teachers in the state, with digital learning becoming the only option during the pandemic. It has been reported that the available 2G internet connectivity has led to unclear audio and frequent video call drops, among other problems in state of Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. So how we can expect the introducing this digital literacy will be very successful, though it has successful to some extent, but still it requires some improvement. Some of the worst consequences of the lack of smartphone penetration and 4G internet have been incidences of student suicides, seemingly in response to inability to afford smart devices and mounting pressure to attend online classes to keep up with the coursework. So in the worst consequences, it has also been reported that students get suicides. It's really very sad, shocking. Then another challenge of introducing this digital literacy as recommended by new education policy is the literacy gap. Along with a prevalent urban-rural divide in our country, there also existed deepening male-female digital literacy gap in India. Data from NSSO's in 75 round national survey in the year 2017-2018 shows a significant gap between the male and female population in rural and urban areas with regard to ability to operate a computer and use the internet. This digital literacy divide among males and females is a key structural constraint, a challenge in the proliferation of digital methods of learning that carries multiple negative impacts on women's education attainment, skill development, and workforce participation. And then there is an impact of this online or remote learning on pupils and teachers also. According to UNICEF, the closure of schools in 2020 has affected more than 1.5 billion children and young people worldwide, leading to a wide range of physiological and behavioral changes. The increase in screen time not only impacts children physically, but can also lead to highlighted risk of online exploitation. So suppose if there is a 5 hour of school and 2 hours of tuition on the screen, So definitely this radiations coming from the smartphone or laptop will definitely, it will give a negative impact on the students and teacher. The rise in use of virtual platforms may expose young children to harmful virtual content, which may also contribute to cyberbullying. An online survey conducted among 155 students across 13 states in India showed that students often complained about frequent headaches and neck back pains due to long online classes. Also, since 45% of student uses headphones while attending lectures, there is an increased risk of developing hearing issues in addition to eye problems and musculoskeletal pains. Lockdown teaching has also restricted students to sit down method of learning and reduce their opportunities for extracurricular and physical activities, which has a negative impact on their health. Online learning has further proven to be considerable challenge for students with disabilities. As per a phone-based survey of 387 students with disabilities conducted by the NGO Swabhiman in May 2020, 56.8% were found to be continuing their studies, with the rest opting to drop out. Additionally, only 56.4% of those interviewed had access to personal or collectively used smartphones. The survey also found that deaf students especially were struggling during webinars with multiple speakers and generally finding it difficult to read on the screens. Notably, teachers are also at high risk. So we teachers are also at very high risk of being impacted both physically and mentally because of increase in online learning. Media reports indicate that virtual classrooms has made significant adverse impact, particularly on female teachers. Remote learning has led to an increase in bullying of female teachers by older students and have thrown up numerous incidents of violating of privacy of teachers. So these are the negative impacts of introducing digital literacy or the impact of remote learning or online learning on the people and on the pupils and teachers. So let us see what will be the concluding remarks of NEP 2020 and beyond, because in the earlier phase of our discussion we found that it was excellent and it has been the primary way of teaching and learning digital literacy, but we saw some of the drawbacks also, some of the challenges, roadblocks also of this digital literacy. So as a concluding remarks, let me discuss few points. Like the NEP 2020, taking cognizance of the present scenario of education in India, seeks to encourage carefully designed and appropriately sealed pilot studies to determine how the benefits of online digital education can be reaped while addressing or mitigating the downsides. As a part of its recommendation for leveraging digital technology for learning, the new education policy aims to build a new autonomous body, National Education Technology Forum, that will standardize the content and pedagogy and promote adaptation of continuously evolving technologies for digital learning nationwide. And then some of the touchable or tangible initiative recommended by new education policies, that the extension of existing e-learning platforms like Diksha and Swayam to provide teachers with user-friendly assistive tools, development of digital repository of coursework, simulations, game-based learning, development of virtual labs like Diksha and Swayam, provision of new national assessment center to design and implement new assessment frameworks. And when it comes to addressing the digital divide, NEP recommends use of television, radio, and community for 24/7 broadcast of educational program, including in regional languages. Whether such programs can replace online classes and e-learning tools and provide the same quality of education to students who do not have access to smartphones or internet is up for the debate. Certainly, the new education policy doesn't seem to offer a specific recommendation to bridge the gender gap in the digital literacy, nor it directly address the physical and mental health consequences of online classes. It also doesn't seek to cover issues faced by students with disabilities while accessing online methods. So it can be concluded that though the new education policy offers some progressive initiatives for development of e-learning tools and seeks to encourage equal access of technology, it misses the mark when it comes to addressing the grave structural challenges that characterize digital learning in India. So going forward, it is imperative to bring about convergence between goals of new education policy and flagship schemes like Digital India that seeks to expand access to communication infrastructure and internet connectivity across the country. A key focus therein has to be on bridging the gender gap in internet users and access to smartphones, and simultaneously making digital learning disability friendly. So at the end, I would like to summarize my discussion that this new education policy 2020, definitely it will expose the students, the kids to the elements of digital era, digital literacy, coding, computational thinking, and definitely it is going to increase the chances of employability and sustainable development. And though it has many challenges, roadblocks, but we should remember the quote of Benjamin Disraeli, who has rightly said that the secret of success is to be ready when your opportunity comes. For us, the Indian teachers, time has come to seize the opportunity and become marker of own destiny. Let's enjoy our journey by building beautiful relationship with generation of learners who transition through our classrooms and remain a lifelong learner. So with this, I would like to cite the references that I have collected the materials from these references. And with this, thank you very much for your patient hearing. And now I welcome questions. If you have any thing, if you would like to ask, you are welcome.